Welcome in. Last episode before the new year. December football, week 15. We got bowl games. We got transfer portal. We got a whole bunch of different things going on. But for me, I need to open my Miller Lite because we got a lot to talk about. How
The Miller Life.
how were the boys doing over this weekend? I know Chad got a big win. You guys were officially eliminated from playoff contention, so that probably feels good. You
Yeah.
can at least
Hey, best case scenario, right?
get that
Yeah.
monkey off the shoulder.
Absolutely.
No, Bucks are rolling. We're going a few in a row now. Unfortunately, Baker's doing exactly what I said he was going to do. He's going to win just enough so we don't get a great draft pick.
Well, you guys are going to get a nice home playoff game.
Unfortunately, we're going to get the Cowboys or the Eagles in the first round, which right now I don't know is who I want to play.
Listen, Chad, there's
I think they're underrated right now. I think the Bucks are like flying under the radar.
Well, right now we have
stole the words right out of my mouth. I said there's a Cinderella every playoff, and this might be it.
Well, we're going to get healthy. Our defense is banged up right now, so they're all going to come back, which would be nice. But we still have to go to the NFC. That's what it comes down to.
And the NFC is not an easy thing right now, and things seem like they're getting even tighter with the bottom of the NFC kind of picking up steam. You got the Vikings, you got the Rams, you got the Saints, the Packers, and until this weekend, the Bears were somehow in that conversation. I don't really understand how or why, but
just doing enough.
Yeah. And on the AFC side, there's tons of things going on as the Penguins just bought one.
Well, they needed to after last night.
Yeah. A whole bunch of people at 8-6. One of the scariest Bills teams that we've seen in a long time. And then a whole bunch of fucking ridiculous losers sitting at 7-7 that are just giving that fan base a little bit of hope and a little bit to look forward to for Christmas.
Are you referring to somebody on the set here, maybe?
So, if we get there, I do have some Steelers takes that will come out, but I mean, they are not the lead story by any means. Any team that is starting Mason Rudolph does not lead off a show. I think that
I don't think they can include a show either.
well,
you kind of sandwich that in the middle. So
we'll find a nice spot in the middle between 100 quarterbacks in the transfer portal, and we should start with your division. You guys are the only losers, like not anywhere part of it, but the Colts have somehow climbed their way into this thing. The Texans have been there the whole time. Going into the season, I don't think we would have said the Texans were a part of this. And now the Jaguars have faltered enough to put themselves in a position where not only is the division in question, but if things don't start to pick up for them, they might miss the playoffs altogether.
Yeah, well, now the quarterback is in concussion protocol, right? After coming off of the high ankle injury. And then you look at Gardner Minshew, who's hanging out his his wide receivers out to dry. I know you're not. We're not here to talk about the Steelers, but I think that was a garbage call against the Steelers player. And then the John Runyon letter that went out today for him, for the suspension, about like you could have let up on the hit. What
play were they watching? It just didn't make any sense to me because and I don't know if did you see it?
I've seen it. I have a lot of talk about this one.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to lead off with this because
I'm glad that you brought it up. I didn't want to be the homer to talk about
I was bringing it up.
Yeah, but the fact that not only leads to an automatic ejection, but leads to a season suspension. I don't know much about this guy's past history, but like, what did he do to whose wife to get a 5-game suspension?
Apparently, he's already been suspended this year.
I don't remember that.
For sure, I saw that there was at least 5 times that he's been suspended, but I think that some of those were already this year.
This is his second year with the Steelers, and I can't remember him getting suspended.
All I know is that as a defender, when a guy is in the air, you cannot change your angle.
No.
Like, you take your angle as if you are going to hit him in the chest. What that guy does in his own millisecond is 100% on him.
Right? Yeah.
He didn't, because if you actually watch it, did he put his head down? Yes. If you want to fold down, that's one. But he didn't put his head towards Michael Pittman. He put his head to the outside, and Pittman dove into his head.
Mm-hmm. Are we going to hang Minshew out to dry and give that man a fine for throwing up a terrible pass? Are you going to start fining wide receivers for going for uncatchable balls?
Did you hear what Tom Brady came out and said? He said that's the quarterback's fault. That has nothing to do with the defender.
100%.
And this is the guy that used to blame everybody else except for himself.
Yeah. I looked up, he has been fined 5 times this year already for 59
Fine, sure.
For 59 grand. So
but they're fining everybody on the Steelers for it. Jalen Warren makes a block and he gets his whole fucking game check eaten.
Sorry,
Liam. I know we're supposed to wait 10 minutes.
It is.
Oopsies.
It's ridiculous though that a hit that's a normal football play. Like, what are you supposed to do? Let him catch the ball and then hope he doesn't get up and run it for a touchdown? You know what I mean? Like, at what point are you just going to turn this into flag football? It was terrible. I'm all for player safety, but you play a contact sport. You're going to come across the blue line 3 or 4 times in a year in hockey? Hell no! You do it one time and you won't do it again.
Correction. This is not a contact sport.
Yeah, not anymore.
This is a collision sport.
Yes.
Contact sport is when like you get you run, you're running to somebody. You were literally taught from the age of 7 years old that you're gonna run as fast as you can. I'm gonna run as fast as I can, and we're gonna run into each other. It is a collision. That's not contact.
Yeah, who's going to be the fly and who's going to be the windshield, right?
So yeah, I think it's an absolute joke.
There has to be.
And at what point is the NFL gonna more or less like come in and say like, hey, either we're gonna wear fucking flags because that's what this league's becoming, or you cannot be taking guys whole game checks.
And
The
yeah,
NFLPA has to step up.
and they have to step up. And like, it's tough for the NFLPA because in order to say it's okay for the defense to hit an offensive player like that, they have to put an offensive player at risk. Which, look, if they want to throw a 15-yard penalty there, like, cool. The guy walked off the field himself. I fully agree with and this would never be a rule because I don't even know how you would police this, but if you knock a player out of the game and you did it intentionally, yeah, you're out of the game too, and you can't come back until he comes back. But to throw somebody out of the game without any type of review process on just an emotional play on the road that may have swung the momentum, and I mean, it definitely changed the defense for the Steelers. And the next 2 plays later, Patrick gets hurt, and we got fucking Joe Blow playing safety.
Mhm.
Who knows what's next? But
What really was just ridiculous for me though was the letter today coming from John Runyon, who's a known hard-nosed offensive lineman.
He's a dirty piece of shit.
And we've all seen we've all seen plays where offensive linemen pancake their player and then take a nosedive into that player's body just to drive that home even more, right? You have no problem with an offensive lineman driving home a linebacker that's 110 pounds lighter than him into the turf and throwing your weight on him. That if that smaller linebacker did the same thing to your quarterback, who is the same as the linebacker, he suddenly gets a 15-yard penalty. It's just such the offensive line, again, just him being part of that, I think, is just another to the defensive side here.
Did you guys see the hit on Tommy DeVito?
No, I didn't see that one. The one that
Did you
just
see
took
that
him out
shit?
with the hard hit to the ground. Yeah.
I saw it a little bit.
So this guy runs, he commits the slide. No one lets up. His head gets bounced off the turf. No flag. And that's a blank call. Like, and that's from like the 80s, that was a penalty.
That's racism against the Italians.
Somebody was ticked off about his agent getting an award this week.
Yeah.
Like, this guy was bounced for dead. He gets up. Then the league's like, whoa. You're going in the blue tent.
And they took him off for a few plays too. I know he came back, but
Yeah. He was laughing going to the sideline and they put him in the blue tent. That guy didn't get fined. Because what? Because this kid bounced back up?
and that's the thing. Like,
Are we fining them on the injury or on the outcome, or are we fining them on the actual play?
that's the thing. Are we allowed to? I just don't say it because Liam's gonna get mad. Michael Pittman is a little bitch, and overall, he embellished that whole thing. The pussy Colts team came to his rescue. None of them did anything because they're all bitches about it. And the entire Colts fan base is a bunch of fucking losers.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah.
You have so many more comments than I do. Why,
I don't know.
why does no one like me?
I don't know. Refresh your stuff, man.
I just do it.
I don't know what to tell you. But overall, like, a ref making an emotional decision could dictate who's making the playoffs. And the Steelers didn't play well enough to win that game. So, like, that game isn't the reason, or that call isn't necessarily the reason that they lost. But a ref shouldn't be in that emotional state to make that call without some kind of review. We can review everything, but you can't review that. You can't just go to the monitor or just be like, "Hey, New York, was I a bitch there? Yeah, I was."
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, see, Kelly, that's the word I wasn't sure if I was allowed to say. He said it anyway. Sorry, Kelly, if that offended you. Whoops.
We're gonna be so shut down.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't believe that happened. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. So that is one thing. But on Saturday morning, before any of the games happened, I was reading a article on NCAA football and how the transfer portal, it's not ruining the game, but it's making things a little bit difficult for fan bases to watch. And there's 156 teams that are Division One in the division, like all the conferences put together. At that point, there was 106 quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Like, how's that even possible? Every team is going to have a new quarterback transferred in that's not a recruit.
Yeah.
That's insanity. I mean, Michigan State benefited quite nicely from that, and that's more of the Oregon State coaching staff coming over and just bringing all their guys with them. But PFF does not have him rated as the number one transfer portal guy, but that's because he didn't really play there. Most of the recruiting sites, like 24/7 and all that, they're saying that's the top quarterback that went into the portal. That changed yesterday when the kid from USC decommitted. We'll see where he ends up, but I know Chad's feelings on the transfer portal. You and I have never really talked about
Okay, so you cannot be a person that says go free willy nilly sign your contracts, get paid by the name, and then at the same token say, no, you got to stay here, and if you do transfer, you got to sit a year or whatever it may be. Those are guys that are making their own decisions, their own business decisions. I'm saying that as a Texas fan watching Quinn Ewers who go to the Big Ten, get that NIL money, and coming right back over to Texas the following year. But that's again, you're going to give these kids the ability to make money on their name. They need to be able to do whatever the heck they want with their name, and that includes putting the name on the jersey they want, if they can get to that team, of course, right? If the team wants them back. So I am totally for it. I've been pretty adamant that I think Shadur should be in there. I know that they're getting a lot of recruits coming their way, but your boy needs to get away from Coach Prime. I think to grow a little bit and see what he can do behind it. Like again, I came down to why is he not interested in going to Ohio State?
Yeah, so Kelly said, and she's probably the biggest college football fan out of all of us. She's saying it's going to destroy college football. And yeah, I mean, overall, should somebody be able to transfer once? Yeah. Should there be a rule about a grad transfer or like because you were a COVID 6 year player, you get an additional? I just don't. I get you should be able to play wherever you want, but if you're, if we're talking about NIL and we're talking about eventually these guys want to be pros, shouldn't they just have to sign a commitment with a number of, I don't know, like a number of years that are involved in it?
Figure out why I can't get comments or see anything.
It might just be in the wrong feed. But yeah, like if you can do that and say you're a rookie or a freshman quarterback and you come in and you signed a 2 year commitment, you should have to honor that 2 year commitment. Maybe you don't have to stay there for four. I get it. Like, but should a true freshman 18-year-old be making a decision that my next year I'm going to be playing in another city, and my next year I'm going to be playing in another
Where
city?
does your quarterback go, by the way?
Who?
Your Murphy, Malik Murphy.
Oh, I don't even know where he transferred out to. I didn't pay attention to that.
Which it makes sense for him. Like he didn't have a choice. He was stuck in a like a guy like that. Like that makes sense to me. Like you kind of said a couple weeks, you're like, so did every quarterback who didn't make the playoff transfer?
Yeah, it seemed like it, and even like fairly big name players from Florida State ended up transferring. And Florida State's its own interesting story. And I know I put that in the group chat, but you guys didn't seem too interested by it. But Trevor Etienne, Travis's brother, I would say he's a fairly well-known running back in the SEC. He put himself into the portal. Like guys from Florida.
Florida's trash.
Yeah, but guys from Florida usually don't transfer out, right? Unless they're not playing. That guy was their offense. So what's next for Florida?
They're gonna grow something that's gonna encourage players to want to go there, right? I mean, it's astounding that these teams that had they had all the recruiting ability, like the money, they
I have
had
to split
all
mine too.
they had all the booster money that was coming their way. Like as far as it's going to kill football. Listen, we're talking about a conference. It's realistically, we've said it 3 times. This is going to go down to a 2 conference league. Realistic,
Yeah.
East and West is what it's going to come down to, in the powerhouses that are within it. So if this, I don't think this is what's going to kill football. We've got a lot of things that are trending the wrong way that is going to kill football. But letting these kids go and play where they want to play, where they're happiest on the field, hopefully anyway, and maybe where they can grow their abilities. That only creates a better product for us when it comes to the NFL, where they're hoping to get to, right?
Right. Yeah, no, and you know what? Like, and Kelly's putting some points in here as we're kind of going through. She thinks that you should be able to transfer once, and I get that. The NIL is making college football look a little bit more like the NFL, which I agree, except for we're not fully seeing the contract. So I'd be curious to know, like if you are an NIL player, are you signing a 3-year deal worth $15 million or something, or are they just giving you $15 million and telling you what school to transfer to because that's the school that they want to hype up? We don't know those things. We won't know those things, I suppose. Um, but I think saying 18 years old is not a baby. No, man, that's pretty young. I I moved out when I was 18,
Yeah.
but I didn't move apartments every 2 months because I wanted to find a better one.
Yeah,
I
but
think the
that's why you
biggest
gotta
thing
leave.
is like, and I agree. Like, if you want to transfer one time, I think you should be able to. If you want to transfer as a grad, that's also fine. Well, whatever. But I have a really there has to be something in place where like the rules are like, is it academics? If and I do believe that if a coaching staff brings you in, this is where I have changed. If you got recruited by a coaching staff and they all jump ship, you should get a free pass. Because to me, it's like you went there for X reason. You went to go play in X system. There's certain players that can't play in certain systems. If you're a straight 4-3 rush end, and you go you have a new team that has they're going to go to 3-4, you are now obsolete. They're not valuable in that defense.
Yeah.
And same with like if you're a quarterback and you're a run and gun guy, and now you say to go to a pro style offense, well, that's not going to suit you because they brought in a new coaching staff. So I think there is like a little bit of gray area that they have to figure out. But like, who's that? Is it JT Daniels? I think he's like in his 17th and 7th years. I
He
don't know how
retired. He medically retired from football, but yeah.
yeah, like probably.
But I think it was from all of his air miles.
Yeah,
Like that guy traveled everywhere, and he was probably I think he was a 5-star recruit at the
he
time.
was because I remember when he came out. He was at USC. Oh, Jesus, what are you doing?
I'm fixing it. You do your thing.
It was fixed.
Did you have the chat back?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now you're just getting my work emails.
Oh, okay. So Joe and Kelly are about to start scrapping out the chat.
Yes.
So anybody interested should definitely go and be checking that out. But I thought Joe made a pretty good point. He's saying that because it makes money, they shouldn't be regulating the people that are putting the product on the field, and that's fair. I mean, they do get compensated in education. That's not enough. We agree that NIL can be a thing. We probably agree that transferring once or in a situation, if you're in a situation where in your 5-year eligibility, your coaching staff turns over twice, then you should get a second free transfer. But like you don't get a free transfer for nothing. And transferring for money, I don't know. I guess that's probably just what we saw in movies like growing up, right? Like we've all seen Hoosiers.
Yeah. There's not a lot of kids that are transferred for NIL money, but like
Stop it.
What? Well, how many kids do you actually think are in let's just say the SEC? How many athletes in the football ranks are making NIL money? Probably 30, maybe 40.
No, like significant money, maybe.
The money that we hear about, yes. But these kids probably making between, I'd say, close to $20,000 just to play on an SEC team.
Every single Alabama offensive lineman, defensive lineman, special teams guy is sitting at the mall in Birmingham signing autographs, and they're making something out of that. It might be like 5 or 10 grand, but that's still significant to something that they would not have.
Sure. And 70% of those guys won't even see an NFL field. We're talking Dino.
No, and that's a good point. But I mean, to say that it's only a few of them, I bet you.
Okay, so
I wonder if there's a stat. Maybe can maybe look it up. I would say there's 60% of college athletes in football, and no, we'll just say football because basketball will be a little bit less. I think are getting some type of NIL money.
The NIL changed the game.
Oh, I'm not saying it didn't change the game. What I'm saying is that I don't think that it had as big an effect as to where kids are going to go to school. And this is me again saying that watching Quinn go to Ohio State and come back to Texas in order to get that NIL money.
Is Joe a Michigan fan?
I don't know.
I don't know.
He's not talking about Michigan, but he just seems like the kind of guy that would want players to decommit from their team and transfer there to play in the playoffs.
Like, I'm going to put that in there now. And like, everybody knows I am the biggest Coach Prime fan there is. No one is going to Colorado unless they know they're getting money. You might win 6 games. Am I wrong?
Well, hey, listen, you're the train. You're the
Yeah,
choo-choo train for Colorado.
100%. I think I am. And I said, I'm his biggest fan. He doesn't go after freshmen because he came out and said, why would I when I can get a kid who's been there for 2 years?
Yeah.
And then why are these kids coming to him? Like, your team won 4 games last year. I thought they were going to win 6. They won 4.
Yeah.
And they got slapped by a lot of teams.
Well,
so they got exposed, right? Like, I'm curious.
Well,
so Joe and Kelly are on here, and they're both very adamant to what they're talking about. I'm curious what they would think about having like a rookie contract for people coming in. You have to. It could be standard. It could be agreed upon at your commit. But if you come in and you're 18 years old, you're a quarterback, true freshman, you have a 2 year deal with that school. And you don't have to re-sign, but you have to fulfill whatever your initial commitment to them is. It could be 3 years, depending on the money they give you. It could be 1 year, and then you have an idea. So that way the schools have a better idea of who's recruiting where and whatever's going on. Personally, if we're going to start putting all this money and the ability to move around, I like that.
It's the Wild West, is what it is.
And that's what the way it should be. I think that again only creates a better product for us on the field. And you're talking about Shadir Sanders as an example. Like nobody's going to want to go there. I will counter that, and I will say that when you know that a player is Heisman candidacy, like we know Shadir is going to be at least in the conversation for the first few games next year. Wouldn't you want to be the offensive lineman that goes there and maybe is that difference maker? Like the 2 or 3 that get there and show that
Not if Ohio State's giving me $3 million.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna put Shador Sanders at $3 million. Like that's what I'm saying though. If there's not an NIL reason to go there,
17% of all NCAA Division One activities have claimed NIL.
claimed.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. But that's the whole.
that's all NCAA. I can't
Yeah,
find
that's
just
not
football.
Like
Yeah.
football.
That includes Spencer.
I think football. Yeah, and football has probably got the chunk of the NIL money for the majority of it. But
I don't think there's NIL swimming. Like I'm sure there's a school that has it, but like I don't know, where did Michael Phelps go? Maryland or something?
Like I'm gonna tell you right now, like I used to say OU softball, like they're paying their players.
Yeah, that's why they win
100%.
every year.
Yeah.
They were paying them 5 years ago. They just are now actually.
So
it's so different
top-
than that gymnast at LSU that makes all that ridiculous money too. I can't remember what her name is. She's like, I think she's 5th or 6th
Yeah,
highest paid
for
athlete
LSU.
in college football. For her NILs.
So for the top 10 biggest deals, 2 are basketball, 1 is gymnastics,
That's right.
and 7 are football.
Okay.
And the one basketball is Bronny.
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 He's the highest paid player, right?
Yes.
And then who's the second for basketball?
Basketball. Angel Reese for
Yeah.
LSU.
Oh, the
Female for
yeah.
LSU.
That one guy who has the one arm, he's like 6th or 7th for NIL money. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't.
All jokes I'll do with
Yeah. Let's make a switch back to because I promised I would talk about it just after the quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Do you guys think Mike Tomlin's coaching the Steelers next year?
Hey, you're coming around. Hey, listen, I think that I've never ever heard the fan base talk the way they do right now. And
It's not up to the fan base.
I know, but I know it's, and you're going to say it's probably split down the middle, or majority is not going to want Tomlin, but it's as crazy as it is to hear the fans talk about Tomlin as we saw people talking about Belichick last year.
I will tell you right now, if Mike Tomlin gets fired by the Steelers,
He will.
before he even picks the first thing up off of his desk, Super Bowl ring, he will have another job. That is the dumbest thing I can ever see the Steelers doing.
So there's a 0% chance, and I'm going to say even -% chance that the Steelers fire him. But there is a growing buzz that Mike Tomlin's kids are all out of the house now. He wants to spend a little bit more time with his wife. He wants to go on TV. He wants to have a little bit more freedom. That's the growing buzz that's kind of floating around right now. I see 2 scenarios happening. One, he either comes back with an entirely brand new coaching staff. There isn't a single fucking coach coming back next year. Or 2, he decides to step away and goes the Bill Cowher route. And this is going to piss you off, but if that were to happen, the Mike Vrabel conversation is going to happen in Pittsburgh. I can assure you of it.
This is me laughing over here. Everybody wants Vrabel. I don't know why everyone wants Vrabel.
I'm not saying I would not want it. I think if Mike Tomlin leaves, give me like Hines Ward as our new head coach. I want somebody offensive minded that can call plays, that can actually get something done. Because
that's not Mike Vrabel right now.
The defensive minded head coach to me is going to become a relic. You need somebody that can spend, is it 15 or 17 seconds in your backup quarterback's ear to tell him exactly what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone gave Josh Dobbs some credit for winning games. Kevin O'Connell won games. Sean McVay wins games. If Tua had to go out, Mike McDaniel is going to win some games.
Chase Thompson played a playoff game and took the Chiefs to like the last 7 or 8 minutes of a football game last year.
If Kyle Shanahan had an arm or any athletic ability, he would be a Super Bowl champion right now. But his ear or his voice is in the ear of Brock Purdy, making him a better football player. Like, and I am more convinced of that than ever. That that's the kind of or that's the kind of coach that you need.
The way
Or
the league is set up
yeah,
is for offense.
you need to be built for a backup
and
quarterback to be
Do
able
you
to
know
step
who
in.
wins games now? tell me if I'm wrong. Everybody's getting a young quarterback, so you don't have to pay them to put players around. Outside of a very select few.
Is that Mike Glennon? Are you talking about Mike Glennon coming in to coach the Steelers? Is that what we're talking
I
about?
don't know.
We'll find out.
But all I know is that if I'm taking a offensive minded coach, talk to my quarterback, because I can save money on my quarterback, I would do that all day long. Like I said, I've said it from day one. Brian Flores is a loser. I honestly do believe that defensive coaches have a much harder time in today's game.
Yeah.
If you cannot help your young quarterback, you will not win.
Yeah, I don't know that much. I don't watch a whole lot of the Jaguars. Glennon is a Jaguars coach, according to Joe, which maybe he is that next guy, but like all those guys that are a part of that McVay tree, which essentially were part of the Mike Shanahan tree, which they don't get credit for, but he was the first guy to break off. To be a successful head coach right now, you have to be one of those guys or be willing to surround yourself with a bunch of those guys. And I can tell you, Mike Tomlin is not that guy to call plays, and he does not like having coaches in the building that he thinks are going to leave in a year or two. He likes stability and consistency, and that worked for a long time. But your roster is not good enough to do that anymore. And your defense, you can't even make adjustments on your defensive line. People are just running all over you because your guys are just standing there like blocks, and they run around you. It's super easy when your safeties can't be your leading tacklers.
And you're probably going to say he's just a bitter ex team player, but there's lots of noise that got made over the last while. Even this past weekend with T.R. Tart getting cut by the Titans 2 days before the game. We've had Kevin Byard get traded and AJ Brown saying, "Welcome, we win over here," and talking about a situation in Tennessee. It's not the first player. Well, who did the Chargers just sign? It was a running back that the Titans, Darrington Evans, who hasn't been a Titan for 3.5 years, tweeted out after the trade for Kevin Byard about like how this was better for him in the grand scheme of things. So there's noise being made about players leaving Tennessee and saying some shit. Devin Bush deleted it right away, but he tweeted it right away after your loss, the smiley face emojis, how happy and joyful he was that you guys lost during that game, and it was proving a point of some kind. I don't know what the point was because I don't know what the story is there.
The guy was, they traded up for him. He was a first round pick, and now 5th year in the league, he's a healthy scratch with the Seahawks.
Yeah,
I mean, give me a break, man. Like you're a special teams player. You're a loser.
But that's the thing. We could say that Darrington Evans fucking played 2.5 games with the Titans over the course of his 3.5 years with the Titans as a running back, and we have running backs up the galore, right? So it's something to be said though when cracks like that start to show in teams that have been good and structured for a long time, regardless of who it comes from.
Yeah,
it's something to say like, what's going on there? Maybe there is something happening there. Maybe because it can't be him sitting alone at work. None of us sit alone at work with our shitty day jobs if we're going through one.
Hey, my boss watches this show. My job's not shitty.
Well, my job right now is fantastic. Right?
Yeah,
in the past,
you say that now.
When we're sitting at the, we were working in restaurants, we had something to complain about. We did it amongst each other. It wasn't something that we just took home to ourselves, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's got to be something. Yeah, well, we definitely didn't tweet it. I didn't delete it right away like these divas do. If you're going to tweet something, own it, punk.
Well, and
yeah, like Josh Allen did before the draft. He left that to deliver 2012.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Don't Google that.
Yeah, you're a bad human.
I didn't say it.
Overall,
Josh Allen did.
Overall, I think that the trend has been going this way and like teetering, and now watching all these quarterbacks. I don't even know who the OC is for Houston, but the fact that he was able to keep Casey Keem's mind in the game and come back and beat you guys, and like the team has a lot of fight. Like that is another difference. Like a team like Houston has a lot of fight in it. A team like this year's version of the Steelers post bye week there's no fight. There's no emotion. No one cares. No one. They should miss the playoffs. Whether they will or not will be up to to be determined. But when you have a coach that can explain the entire play to your quarterback and he can just start getting out there and doing it, great. Where Kevin O'Connell made his mistake with Dobbs is he stopped doing that and he opened up the playbook. Keep it simple, stupid. Like just keep doing your thing.
Even for the NASA engineer.
Right. Like the guy's smart. He can digest football. He can break down tape, but he is not. He can't do all of those things at once.
When live bullets are coming at you, it's a big
Yeah,
difference.
right. You need easy reads. You need to be able to do that. Your defense is good enough. They let the Bengals back in the game.
You mean Andy Reid's offense? Because that's literally what he's done since 2002.
Yeah. Well,
Am I wrong? He made Alex Smith look really good.
he did.
I don't think Don McNabb was a great quarterback. He made him look really good.
Well, there was the year that he had like AJ Feely and
Yeah,
who was the other guy? Do you remember?
Ty Detmer. He won.
Ty.
He went with Ty Detmer. He done with AJ Feely, or not AJ Feely, but you know what I'm talking about. Don McNabb, Alex Smith, and then who's the other one?
So who was that? Who was the other blonde-haired Trevor Lawrence-looking guy that was bombing out in Philadelphia? That
Thigpen Thigpen was in KC and won games too.
I can't remember who it is now. Yeah, that might have been Thigpen now.
Yeah, no. You have a simple offense. You keep it simple, and you make it to your players around you at the ball of your quarterback's hands. Football's not that difficult.
Yeah, and so I mean, coaching wise, like it's pretty wild to think that at the end of this year, there might be no Belichick and no Mike Tomlin in the NFL, which would put John Harbaugh as the longest tenured NFL coach. I know, and I'm not even sure he's a good coach. I just think he is. I don't know. He's used to living in people's shadows because he lived in his brother's shadow his whole life.
Well,
that he doesn't mind bringing good coaches in to like coach around him.
It also goes to say that the coaches that have been fantastic throughout history have had great kickers. They really have.
Yeah.
I know that sounds stupid, like a 3-point kicker or whatever, but like Justin Tucker gets your points from 62 yards out consistently, even with wind in his face, right? Like if you can keep your defense or have your defense just keep the game close, have the ball at the end, and give Justin Tucker a half-yard field goal opportunity, you're going to win the game.
Right.
It's
He's never missed a kick inside the 30.
Yeah,
in his whole career.
That's just an astounding stat because I've had my fair share.
I've seen a lot of guys kicking college game day, and they're not making that look so easy.
No. So yeah, that's you mentioned Harbaugh. I think he's had a couple of things. He's had a really good defense that when he first had that team. He's transitioned that now to be a decent defense with a explosive offense when it can be. But it comes down to this: the special team. You're just going to get those points. You're going to guarantee. If the Titans had to made the extra point, they would have won the game. There was no overtime, right?
Didn't Dylan Gabriel commit to Oregon?
Yeah.
So Oregon also just got Deontay Moore from USC or UCLA. Sorry.
Why would he go there?
I don't really understand that either. But anyway, it literally just popped up in my feed.
That makes zero sense.
Yeah, I don't understand
Oregon.
that part. What's that?
Oregon.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
Oh, Kevin Kolb.
Yeah, he was airing out in Philadelphia for Andy Reid,
and then he went with them to Kansas City.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and Jeff Garcia.
Yeah, what a stud.
Of all these teams, like last year, it was pretty limited for how many openings there were. How many head coach, and we'll count Staley, and we'll count.
That's a sexy job right now.
Yeah, and we'll count the Panthers. So I mean, there's already 2 jobs open. How many more jobs are going to open between now and the end of the season?
Well, does Antonio Pierce keep his job?
Yeah, 100%. You don't have your best player, arguably the best defensive player in the NFL, in Crosby, go to the owner and say, I need that guy to stay here. I know that we just talked about defensive player coaches being, that guy is foot on the gas. He scored 56 freaking points, man, against a division rival.
That guy just looks like a Raider.
So
also, like, he screams like I'm a Raider, like times. But
I'm gonna give you a Raider scenario though, and just like a very
Josh McDaniels.
This is something that could happen. It'll all take shape at the end. Who's a part owner of the Raiders?
Brady.
And
not yet, but it's going that way.
Who did they just let go?
McDaniels.
And
he's not going there.
He's
not going there.
Josh McDaniels left him twice, high and dry, as an offensive coordinator. Bill Belichick will coach the Raiders.
He's not. He's not going to the Raiders.
I think that.
Could you imagine Belichick just living his best life?
I think that they trade for him.
No.
I think that they'll trade for him.
If it's going to be anything, maybe he's an advisor on the team, like
I don't know, man.
Part owner himself.
Just imagine Bill Belichick just living his life in Vegas.
I can.
He would just be down on the strip every
recently single. Just needs a reason to go out there and have fun, right?
Yeah, like I don't see him as the guy going to LA to be like the Chargers coach. But you keep going up and down. Like if we're hypothetically saying New England's looking for a coach, if Tomlin decides to retire, because that's the only way. He either retires or they trade him. Like there is no way that they fire him. They could lose their last 3 games by 50 points and he's not getting fired. It does not matter. The Rooneys are not like that. What other coaching jobs are going to be? You think he's actually going to get fired?
I think the leash is getting extremely short. If he
Do-
was to go into next season, I think that he goes into next season. But if he goes into next season and he has a horrendous 4 of 7 games, I don't see why. I think that could certainly be the tide to changing.
Do you know who the last Steelers head coach to get fired was?
Never, it was the owner of the Steelers who fired himself after like 5 weeks or something like that.
And it was in the late 1960s.
Yeah, times change. I think that the Steelers are a. You guys hang your hat on that logo and the defensive side of the ball that you guys have had for years and a good running back.
And Super Bowls, but keep going.
Well, okay, yes, but your Super Bowls were won on the backs of a good running game and a great defense.
Okay.
Okay, and then you had this quarterback who sucked in the fans a little bit further by onto the offensive side.
Multiple Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Keep going.
Okay, your team can't go down the path of turning to shit before it's too late. And
That's too late.
and
It's already too late.
it's
There's
not
shit.
too late. It's
Yeah.
not too late. I think what is too late is, unfortunately, and you like Tomlin, so you're going to back him here. I think it's too late is to let him to make the decision that it's time for him to walk away. I think the team needs to make the decision it's time for them to walk away. He's an incredible motivator, but he hasn't done anything outside of that couple of first seasons that he was there and having winning records every single season.
I wouldn't say he hasn't done anything. What I'll say is there's been a switch.
Don't look at me. I'm a Tomlin guy.
There's been a. I mean, the guy almost has 200 wins. So don't tell me he hasn't done anything. Let's settle down with the emotions over there.
Sure.
His kids kept him very in tune to what the players were talking about. He understood what the players were going through because his kids would be like, "Dad, this is this is that." His kids don't live there anymore. So he's very out of touch and out of focus with what the young player is. He can have a conversation with Cam Hayward. I don't think he has a whole lot of conversations with George Pickens. I don't think that they have a whole lot in common.
Well, but then him too. Also, I know Pickens is an emotional guy and everything, but they change OCs. They have a couple of good games offensively, and then 3 days leading into that friggin' game this past weekend, he says, "How am I supposed to get yardage when I'm told to run 5-yard routes?" This is just
Fair.
recent talk, right?
No, and all of that is fair, but they're playing with Mitchell Trubisky and now Mason Rudolph. So they had good offensive production after they switched coordinators until Kenny Pickett got hurt. So the only way that Tomlin walks away or Tomlin is not there is if he walks away. There's 0% chance that Omar Khan, who's the GM of the Steelers, walks into Mike Tomlin's office and says, "Hey, we've had enough." Bill Cowher got a tremendous amount of losing seasons in leash. Chuck Noll didn't do anything as a Steelers coach really past the 70s Super Bowls. And he coached them all the way deep into the 80s. Or, sorry, into the 90s.
That's when there was only 5 teams that mattered in the NFL, and you guys were always going to be one of them, mainly because
There still only is 5 teams that matter in the NFL.
no.
It's just there's a bunch of people on Twitter that think that there's other fan bases. Name me the 5 best fan bases.
I guess that I would say
Pittsburgh.
Hold on, I would say that
Green Bay.
I think it is as ridiculous about you talking about
Dallas.
Vrabel getting traded out of Tennessee as you think it is about me talking about Tomlin needing to hang up the cleats.
I don't think they're going to trade for him. The Steelers aren't going to give up shit for Vrabel. I'm just saying he was drafted by them. That's why there would be a connection there.
And he was traded, wasn't he?
Yeah, they cut him.
Oh, they cut him.
Yeah. But yeah,
What's worse?
back to the initial question. How many head coaching vacancies is there going to be at the end? So we're saying hypothetically 4 right now. But there's got to be more. Who else is getting cut?
Solid.
Okay, the Jets. Okay, so wow, I didn't even think of that one. Damn.
You've had 2 years. Your top quarterback is drafted.
Mm-hmm.
The Aaron Rodgers thing, that happens. It is what it is.
Yep.
Your defense has not been lights out this year.
Okay.
That's what you're known for. You have stars on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
You have a really good offensive line, and you're losing. And unfortunately, you're in a division.
We love you too, Kelly.
It's only going to get better.
Yeah. So Salah. Start working our way backwards. I mean, Brian Daboll. So
Please
we're
fire
looking
that
at
guy.
we're looking at 2 head coaching jobs in New York.
Can we please
Talk about how good Daniel Jones is, though, because I would love to talk about.
Well, he hasn't played in order to know how good he is right now.
You have a trigger finger to fire people really quickly. Obviously, we saw the best version of the Bills yesterday. If the Bills don't make the playoffs, is Sean McDermott keep a job?
Well, I think I have still from day one. You guys have heard me. Leslie Frazier was more important to that team than that guy harping up whatever he wanted to say at the chalkboard in front of the rest of the team. Leslie Frazier was the heart and soul of that defense. Sean McDermott just says some really cool catch lines. That's what I've gathered from this guy. And all his
That's right. He
interviews,
says some inappropriate things too.
yeah. But for most of his interviews, he just says some catch line material that I'm sure can resonate with some of the team. But who brought home that defense was Leslie Frazier. So yes, if they don't make the playoffs, that being said, if they continue to play like they did yesterday, they're playing pretty hard. It could, I think, it could skirt the line where he keeps his job.
Riverboat Ron's gone.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so whatever we call them now,
So
the Washingtons.
Panthers, Falcons, Reds, Commanders. Oh, wow. The Red Commanders.
Yeah, they do wear red uniforms sometimes.
What are you shaking your head at?
Oh, you got it up there? Okay, so
And honestly,
there's not a
the
lot.
Seahawks.
And
you think Pete Carroll?
I think Pete Carroll is going to get the, hey man, we're going to let you leave with your head held high, but I think it's time to go.
I think it's more likely that Arthur Smith gets fired.
Arthur Smith is gone. That guy should
This is what, his third year?
second year.
second year.
Okay, he might get a pass then.
Nah, I don't know.
I mean, you give him lemons and he's literally lemon.
Well, like, are you literally just saying like, hey, you have two options: either you give the ball to Bijan Robinson, or you're fired.
Bijan played like shit yesterday, and he had a really, really bad fumble. Something's been up with that dude. Like,
Since that they got pulled that second week, or third week.
yeah. Something's what's that?
Because of the Texans,
He-
they can't perform in big
He's just
games.
not all there.
Something's up. Something up with that team though. Like Arthur Smith, as much as I love for what he did when he was in Tennessee, you got a team that is full of tight ends. You got Jonnu Smith. You got Kyle Pitts. You got
Rick London, who's like, I would say,
physical tight end, not wide receiver type.
like a pretty decent receiver though. If you get the guy the ball in his area, he's gonna catch it.
Michael Pruitt, who is not a household name, I only know because he played for the Titans, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he catches it. Like he comes down with everything. But the offense has been abysmal, especially through the tight ends. Last year, I think Kyle Pitts was like a 700
Kelly
yard receiver.
agrees that Bijan's problem is runners at Texas.
Yeah, the best products come out of what was the last like AP? Was that the best running back that came out of there?
Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Ramon Stevenson is from Oklahoma, isn't he?
No, but okay, would you put him over AP?
I don't think. Well, on my fantasy team this year, I would. But I mean, he's injured
No.
too, so
You're talking about AP as in Adrian Peterson.
yeah. He's
Okay.
but he's not playing right
Yeah, I know. He still wants to play.
now. Oh, I mean, think of all the running backs that have got hurt. He didn't get a call.
No.
I mean, the Rams could have probably used him in the middle part of the season, but yeah, I mean, the Rams are safe. I think that majority of the teams that are fishing around the playoff area are safe. But I heard a rumor, and I couldn't piece it together, that there's gonna be up to 10 openings this year.
Yeah, if you include OCs and DCs, maybe.
No, head coaching.
But like that LA job, that is not. I don't want that job at all. I really.
The Chargers?
Nah, no, I don't. I get it. I get that it's fun because you got yourself a quarterback already, but you have one of the worst cap situations with some of the worst contracts that are upcoming, and you got an owner that has to share his stadium with another team base. Like two teams that really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
The Chargers don't even sell out in LA still. It's just crazy.
yeah, well, they sell out because other fan bases come in and
Come in and watch it.
So that's the thing. Like, LA might be the biggest market for football, and NFL wanted them there, but both the Rams and the Chargers get cucked in their own stadium.
Mhm.
And who did the Chargers play or the Rams play yesterday?
And
The Washingtons.
Yeah.
There was more Washington fans in the stadium
in LA,
And like,
ridiculous.
and again, so that's another team that had like the Washington. I almost did it too. Commanders are basically like
It's so difficult.
the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're going to sell out when they get on the road. It's at least the Leafs have kind of pulled themselves.
Especially now with their new ownership. Like I'm excited to see what they can do, but then I know we're trying to not something we normally talk about, but that's a team. Those owners own the Sixers.
Kelly's gonna beat you.
Yeah.
Those owners own the Sixers. They own the Devils. Those are teams that they've invested heavily into,
Yeah.
and like they're going to do that in Washington. So it's fun to see what they're going to do finally, because that fan base has had it rough. They really have.
So while we're talking Washington, like we're all convinced that Rivera's done. like, do they just hand the job to the enemy, or is he back on the street again? Because this was the guy that was supposed to be the
Well,
best
I
head
the
coach.
offense.
When I was
2
ready
years
to get
ago,
to that
right?
and say, yeah, there's not even been a single mention about this guy as far as a head coaching
That
position.
offense didn't get any better.
No, it didn't at all. And there hasn't been anything unique about the offense that has shown up in highlight tape. Like
Yeah.
I told you before we came on the show, I do my best to watch condensed tape all the time of each game. That none of those games are exciting to watch. None of them have any type of trickery to them.
The
And
last
that's-
2 minutes or 3 minutes of the Washington game, Terry McLaurin single-handedly put me back into my fantasy.
I was how much does he even have as far as yardage this year?
Not great. Let me tell you, he's my
Yeah.
fantasy receiver.
But he ended up with
Not
25
great.
points yesterday because, I mean, when he was with Howell, he had like 3 catches for 50.
So 835 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he could finish over 1,000 yards for the year. But this is a guy who should be getting 1,600 yards. He should be up there with the A.J. Browns.
Yeah, well, look who his quarterback is.
Well, this is also the quarterback that we were told was going to be the answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I-
so Sam Howell
maybe
doesn't
that's-
mind throwing the ball.
I think it's like, but maybe it's Bellamy's offense.
Like,
When you don't have Patrick Mahomes, that might be one of the issues.
I think to Kelly's question, the Calgary Stampeders,
Correct.
which is a CFL team, Kelly. She wants to know where Caleb was.
He's, in a lot of drafts, he's falling now like, to the bottom of the top 10.
Is he really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's really like that's the right spot for him.
There you go. Malik Murphy went to USC. Everyone.
Yeah. I mean that makes a little bit of sense. That also makes sense why that kid transferred out. Yeah, when you're looking at the draft, and we're gonna have a long winter to talk about the
They're going
draft.
to beat
But
the death out of that quarterback
Yeah.
class.
like May,
I don't think he's the first pick overall either now.
I don't think so either, and neither is Marvin Harris Jr. and neither is Caleb Williams. So it's getting pretty
I'm
wide
gonna-
open. It's going to be a non-skill guy that goes
I'm
first
going to
overall,
put this out there.
in my opinion.
You don't think that Neighbors or even Jordan Davidson can get up there? Get through a good combine?
I just don't think that it's worth taking a receiver unless you know what you're getting. Like Neighbors is, I think he's going to be the Justin Jefferson type of guy.
Can I give you, I think, the best scenario for what the Chicago Bears should do, and everyone needs to probably laugh at me, but it is the smartest thing they can do. First off, you keep Justin Fields, number one.
Completely agree. He actually looked really good against the Browns. Just
You trade back from that one spot to like a 3 or a 4.
okay.
You have your second pick at 5 or 6, is what I'm saying. You go get Joe Alt and go get the kid from Penn State. I will not attempt to say his name.
So
Afalu?
Sure.
Both
they're
tackles?
already pretty loaded at tackle. Like one of those guys I could see, but they put Darnell Wright as a first round pick last year.
But you can bump one of those guys inside.
Oh, you have a big line.
And that's what you have a quarterback who's protected. You have a really good receiver. You had a run game that's rolling now. So
I just know firsthand that tackles typically don't like being, if a left tackle specifically doesn't like being told to play somewhere else, especially if you moved inside. You're not athletic enough to play outside anymore.
Imagine putting Darnell Wright as a guard.
That's trouble.
He's 6'7", 370 pounds.
but see, Alt could play guard. He's a former tight end, so he's athletic enough to move. Now you can bump him in if you need to for a year or two. Let those guys fight it out. You book that. You have 2 bookends.
Yeah.
You build that line, and you protect your investment. I don't think getting Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jalen Daniels, whoever you think is going to be the guy, is any better than Justin Fields.
I don't mind Jaden Daniels, but yeah, you're right. He's not going to be.
So to me, get your offensive line built.
and your
check your
defensive
guy.
line looks so good.
Yeah,
Like-
you've upgraded your defense, and that way you extend Fields.
Yeah.
And if it still doesn't work, hey man, you are the problem. We gave you everything.
They may need to look at replace. I know they got the franchise tag option, but they
Right.
may need to look at replacing that cornerback that wanted out earlier in the season.
Everyone give a Merry Christmas to Buffalo Wild Wings out in Oklahoma.
Christmas, Buffalo Wild Wings.
Enjoy your Christmas party.
How many free drinks do they have tonight? Me swearing.
Yeah.
How many shots have happened in this show?
Yeah, that's we got the playoff, and we're gonna talk about the playoff probably in the last 5
Pitch the
minutes.
website.
What's that?
Pitch our live stream times. Mondays to 7.
Yeah, Mondays around 7:15, 7:20, depending on how our computers are working. Come and check us out. Ask Kelly how to follow us. She can hook you up. I don't really know our social media stuff off the top of my head, so I'm the bad guy.
Going for 2.
Going for 2?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. Liam's quite the producer over there. Let's get into New Year's Day, and we'll talk about first of all Alabama, Michigan. I can't believe you sat there and held your tongue about Texas this whole time. Good for you for doing that. Alabama, Michigan. I know that you're feeling like Michigan is going to be the team that overall like wins this thing, and probably Harbaugh goes to the NFL. Maybe no. Anyway, I need to understand where you're coming from because I cannot like anything about Michigan. Their jerseys make me want to puke. Everything about those guys make me want to get sick. And I think Jalen Milroe might have 10 touchdowns.
I think that's a bit of a personal bias.
I honestly think the reaction from the Michigan room when Alabama got announced told me everything I needed to know.
Yeah.
How quiet they were.
They did. They look scared.
Those guys sit down to pee. They were not ready.
Like, everybody knows how much I hate Michigan,
Yeah.
and I don't hide it. And I was like, sweet. And I said Bama was getting in the second they beat Georgia. And all I know is the way Michigan reacted when Bama got in, Bama's already won that game. Because Nick Saban already has those boys ready to go.
Okay, but as much as you hate Harbaugh, as much as I don't like Harbaugh.
You know what's funny about that? I was actually a Jim Harbaugh fan as a youngster liking the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay, let's come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
But as a person who knows how powerful a motivator can be, that coach has not been able to be in those rooms with those players for a few weeks, and them seeing that announcement, we have no idea what motivation that team is going to have when the coach can actually get his mouth in their ear. You know what I mean? Saying some things.
That's probably how he did his recruiting.
Yeah.
He's a weird guy.
I just think that there's a lot of motivation that can be done through a team that knows that they're good. At the same time, they don't need to show them. What emotion do you want them to show?
Michigan has some good players. Their quarterback sucks ass.
Yeah, but they can hide that. They can hide that with their good running game. They can hide that with their decent
Who did
defense.
Michigan beat this year that has SEC size defensive line?
Stop.
Tell me. Who?
I understand.
Nobody. They beat Ohio State, and every single fucking player from Ohio State transferred. Who else did they beat? Penn State, who hasn't beaten a top 10 team since John Franklin got there.
Okay, would you be more confident with Texas going? Forget the fact that they beat them in earlier in the season.
I think Texas and Bama are the two best teams in the playoff.
I think Texas got a shitty matchup because they have to play. I mean, I don't know what the defense is like, but early on in the season, I saw their defense kind of struggled a little bit. If their defense struggles against Michael Penix, he's going to eat you.
No, there's no struggle in their defense. I think that was just the early season jitters. That's a strong defense. That front seven is absolutely incredible. But if I was looking at it, even as a Texas fan,
I think Bama beat Georgia, and I'm going to put Georgia ahead of Ohio State. I'm answering Kelly's question. She said Bama beat. I'm going to say they beat Georgia.
So if Texas went against Michigan, would you say that the Texas would beat Michigan State?
I do think so.
I would be worried about that matchup personally.
Well, again, like I don't know a ton about your defense, but I do believe in a Nick Saban-led defense. Also, I love Nick Saban's pettiness, who went out and hired a former coach. It actually, the way I read the article, it seemed like he plucked him right off the staff, and they brought him in immediately to start working on the Michigan defense. I think that's awesome. But anyway, I don't think that Alabama is going to blow them out. But I do think that when it comes down to it, like if I'm going to guess a score, I'm going to say 30 to 17 for Alabama.
That's not a blowout. That's basically doubling Michigan's score.
Hey, you
said
it, not me.
They're
You
giving
keep calling me
Bama 10.
Homer.
They're giving Bama 10 points.
Yeah, well, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it yet.
Yeah, USC is playing in the toilet bowl, and I think that Caleb Williams is going to be crying on his mom's shoulder until the draft.
He's already opted in.
No, I'm just of course he did.
But so did Drake May. So like now, like the guy I was going for, like here's a bitch too.
No, but the thing is, like, and we're going off on a tangent, which is something we don't never do on this show, right? If you're a quarterback or a highly skilled player that's more than likely a first round pick, and you're playing in a dickhead bowl, what's the point?
Yeah, I don't care.
I know you don't care. I'm just like,
Like,
you're just
sure.
making a
That's the man from Notre Dame. I'm sorry, you're playing a fucking 4th round draft pick. What the fuck are you doing playing up a bowl game, you loser?
Well,
Like, you did not show me anything to improve your stock.
who do you guys even play in the bowl game? Is it LSU?
No, you play at Oregon State.
Oh, and they're decimated. So like
Yeah.
it's literally a nothing. Like you guys are gonna be favored by double digits.
We know our whole team's sitting out too. The
Oh.
fucking NCAA is a bunch of fucking bitches now. And this is what college football's turned into.
Well,
Speaking
we're
of
sorry that chat's ruining your Christmas
speaking
party.
of bitches, how did you? Who beat you and made you a Colts fan earlier in your life?
Okay, so yeah, good question.
Great transition, by the way.
My yeah, you're getting good at this. As a youngster, until I was about 8 or 9, I would say I was a Colts fan, like through and through. Um, when I transitioned to becoming a Steelers fan, yeah, you haven't heard this story.
No.
How have you not heard this story.
No.
Okay, you know that I was always a
Shane
Penguins fan,
transition. That's all I heard from this whole thing.
and my mom was taking me out to buy a new. Yeah, you can't say that. To buy a new winter jacket, and the Colts jackets were all white with a blue logo. And she said, "There's no way I'm buying that for you." So out of spite, I picked the jacket that looked like the Penguins colors. Little did I know that that was the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then a love story was started.
Well, I mean, it went from one rival to the next for me, and unfortunately, you guys aren't rivals anymore. But God, that's a rough upbringing there.
But that was, like that was Jim Harbaugh, who was okay at the time,
With the blue mask,
and like
blue face mask with
a
the
very
silver-
fresh Marshall and the elbow pads,
Yeah,
like a stud. But yeah, and a very fresh Marshall Falk. But yeah, that was short lived.
thank God.
And the first quarterback I remember seeing play for the Steelers was
Cornell slash. I don't.
I think it was before. Yeah,
O'Donnell.
yeah. So
Funny story about Neil O'Donnell.
that was the year. So 2000 or 1995 was the year that I started liking the Steelers, and then they went to the Super Bowl and lost.
My mom used to call Neil O'Donnell Mafia Man because she was determined he threw the Super Bowl.
The way he played, it sure looked like he did, didn't it?
So I remember growing up, and that's what she called Neil O'Donnell because he thought he threw the game.
I think Notre Dame's playing in the Catholic Bowl. What is it called? What are you guys playing in?
That no one gives a shit bowl. I don't know.
Oh, Kelly's asking.
It's like this something Sun Bowl. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, okay. So
It's
Chad and I are both Bama. You haven't made any kind of a case for me to sway, so we're saying Bama's going into January 8th. Washington, Texas. I'm just going to assume you're going to take Texas, but
I've been beating the horn about Washington all year. I don't believe in them. All I think they are right now is program hype with a pretty decent defense, but that's about all I'm bought into.
It is the Sun Bowl. This week.
Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. That was my favorite cereal.
Great.
That was my favorite cereal growing up, by the way. You know, Lane shows up.
yeah, it's about time Lane got here.
Yeah, you know, Lane.
Yeah, we're.
Did you see Kelly's comment?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm intentionally ignoring it so that he doesn't have to talk about
That's
it. Yeah, we're running into a little bit of overtime here, but if we're looking at Washington, Texas, I think that Texas was the right team to put into the playoff over Georgia. If they get behind Washington, I don't think that you guys can score with Washington. You can correct me on that, but I think that the receivers in Texas are good. I think that they can run the ball. I question their defense. More importantly, I question their secondary. And they have way too much firepower there. If you guys are off your game, it's going to be 21-0 before you know it.
It's not even the receivers; it's the tight end. That tight end Sanders is going to absolutely abuse that Washington defense up the middle. That's what's going to happen between the.
I like Mitchell. I think Mitchell's going to score at least
Oh,
once.
Mitchell's a great deep threat, but I just think the intermediate routes, those red zone, like he had that fantastic catch 4 weeks ago, was a pinpoint in the corner of the end zone. Those are the things that we're going to see this playoff with Texas. They're not going to be able to put it down the field deep to Worthy or Mitchell. I don't think it's just going to be intermediate. But the defense, I'm telling you, Washington's got a good offensive line. They've not seen the size that Texas can throw in a rotation all the time. Just keep coming in and out.
Well, and honestly, like, I want to see Texas versus Alabama in the final because I think, one, that's the best game, that's the best viewership, that'll get the best hype behind it. I think any game that Michigan's in is automatically shitty. And Washington, they've been an amazing story. And the way that they handled Oregon, who was a little bit of a powerhouse in a Pac-12 that's been dissolved, was impressive. But again, everything runs through the SEC, and next year everything runs through the SEC and the Big Ten. Typically, I would say everything runs through the Big Ten, but when Michigan's a representative, you don't really know what to expect, right? Jeez.
Yeah.
Seems like things are wilding out down there.
That's a family restaurant.
Yeah, get yourself a pretzel and,
Go to
and
bed.
pull yourself together. Oh yeah, we cannot help ourselves but get off topic. All right, so I do think that it'll be Bama and Texas, and I told you going in that I thought Washington would be a fairly heavy favorite going into the game, and I thought it might have been double digits, which I was obviously wrong. We'll see what the boys in Vegas know that we don't know, and yeah, just I'm not even looking at it. And chat, are you on Washington or are you on Texas?
I just said Texas and Bama. I think of the
Yeah,
championship.
and Chad and I are gonna watch that together and just whatever kind of state we want to be in.
Hopefully, there's no replay of the last time Texas and Bama showed up in a championship game. Eh? My God.
Bama will kill Texas. Yeah, I mean Kelly's on one. Oh boy, I just saw a comment. Okay. All right. I kind of feel like we should. Do you guys have any last NFL stuff? I know this game is kind of kicked off. Jalen Hurts doesn't look like he shit his pants yet, so I mean they're on.
Sometimes you just gotta poop.
Yeah, they're off to a good start. There was the question that we started to talk about, and then who knows what we started to talk about, but I do want to get the answer. Is Jacksonville going to miss the playoffs?
Yes.
I was good.
Before the season started, I said Jacksonville is gonna do Jacksonville things.
Yeah. I mean, Houston's playing pretty real, and they claim T.R. Tart. I know that sounds petty that I'm saying that there's some guy that the Titans just cut is going to make a big difference, but that's a defense that has played very well already this season.
Lane, we were already talking about your coach getting fired. I don't think they're making the playoffs.
And now they got one of the better run stoppers in the league too to fill some gaps. So
I think
Houston's
Houston's
scary.
scary.
Houston's scary.
CJ comes back and he can play then.
Best rookie quarterback of all time.
So after yesterday and seeing what the Bills did and how they operated, are the Bills this year's version of, call it like the 2005 Steelers, the 2007 Giants, where they're gonna get in as a wild card because they had all these falters, but as soon as they get in the playoffs, it's just like a buzzsaw gonna run through everybody. No, you're done on the Bills.
I am slowly beginning to get off the Josh Allen hype train. Little by little, as more and more plays against him happen, and he looks a little bit more lost.
James Cook is what's keeping that team going.
Yeah.
I mean, he had
The best thing they ever
under
did.
100 passing yards, I think yesterday, right?
The
Yeah.
best thing they ever did was fire Dorsey, and they took the ball out of Josh Allen's hands.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they're tied to him. And that's what's going to hurt
And I
them.
still think he's a top quarterback in the league. I'd say he's probably a top 5, 6, 7 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
And with James Cook, that team's got so much more dimensional.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you know what? There's lots to talk about and lots to continue to go through. Unfortunately, we won't be back next week because it's Christmas. We won't be back the week after that because it's New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, whatever day it is.
Yeah, maybe it was pop of a shop.
Yeah,
They would be so
Yeah.
happy if we do that.
I was gonna say Chad and I will be here hanging out anyway, so you never know. But from the boys at Going for Two, we want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. The people in Buffalo Wild Wings, it sounds like they're on one, so we appreciate that. If we
Don't
had
drink
a
and drive.
flight, if we had a flight, we'd be on our way right now.
We wish you a happy Monday to those guys.
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah. Do not drink and drive, according to Leo. We'll be back on January the 8th, I believe, to break down the national championship pregame and to get everything going. But time to sign off, and we appreciate everybody for sticking with us, and we appreciate Kelly and Joe for really going at it in the chat there, and anybody else that was participating. And we will see you next year.
Fuck OU.